Welcome to Spoonful of Strength, a podcast for people with chronic illness and the ones who love them, where we talk all things chronic. Here's your host, Rachel and Tina.
Welcome to today's episode of A Spoonful of Strength. Today's guest is Pam with the Rare Patient Voice, and Rare Patient Voice is their mission is helping patients and caregivers share their voices. Now, Rachel, you kind of came across them in the process of looking for podcast episode potential of supporting. So what brought you? Tell me what grabbed your attention with them.
Well, I thought it was really interesting. I found them on Instagram and I connected with somebody with Rare Patient Voice, and I just thought it was an interesting way for people with chronic illness to be able to help in learning about their disease, doing market research. I think sometimes people with chronic illness, we just feel like we're just living with it, and you feel like there's nothing that you can do, and this is something you can do. So it's based on the illnesses that you have. So me having type 1 diabetes, I will get surveys and interviews request for type 1 diabetes specifically. I think it's real important with a chronic illness to feel like that you have a hand in learning more about the disease or helping to maybe find a new medicine or something that will help ultimately find relief or a cure or something like that, and to feel like you're involved in something bigger.
Again, as we all talk about finding your purpose with everything that you're going through, so kind of participating with them, that's another way to help others.
Yeah, just to be included in the study and give your experience, and basically just getting more information out there, market research. And it's important to feel like that you have a hand in potentially finding improvements for your chronic illness.
Now, you mentioned that you're taking part in an MS study.
Yes.
Already.
Yep.
And I have actually been part of a study too. When I went in when I had a reoccurrence in 2020, I went to a doctor at Hopkins that specializes and is researching that particular urothelial cancer and transitional cell carcinoma. And so when I was there, they asked me if I would be willing to be part of their study. And I was like, well, absolutely. I don't even have to do anything. They have access to my medical records so that they can kind of follow along, treatments and how things are going. And so I guess my philosophy is like, if I can help somebody else by agreeing to be part of a research, then why wouldn't I?
Right. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to her, and I think that we're ready to bring her in.
Yeah, let's go ahead and welcome Pam in.
Well, welcome, Pam. We are so excited to talk with you about Rare Patient Voice. So first, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I have been with Rare Patient Voice for the last 8 years. Prior to that, I've always been in a kind of a public health research role, or even now pharmaceutical marketing research role that kind of evolved into. Started out really in social sciences and working as a government contractor, and I moved on. I did a little clinical research. I was a coordinator at Johns Hopkins for a little bit, and then moved into pharma market research. And then, I worked as kind of doing focus groups and interviews and talking to patients about, how messages kind of spoke to them, and developing things for either when I was in social sciences for, like CDC and NIH campaigns that they were building to communicate with patients. And then, when it moved over to pharma market research, more looking at how companies and industry can communicate with patients. So fast forward, Wes started, who I worked with way back in the early 90s. Um, um, he had started Rare Patient Voice, and I said, "Well, let me know when you need someone to come on," and he did, and here I am. So, what we have done over time is we started out, small and focusing on rare diseases, but creating a community of patients that we connect with all types of research. So we do that we started out by going to events. So we would go to pre-COVID, we would go to one year we went to 300 events. We had
Wow.
part-timers all over the country going to, like, we'll have a Crohn's and Colitis walk, or there's a National Hemophilia Foundation conference or National Sickle Cell. We went to those events and set up our booth and talk to patients and explain what kind of research they might be involved in. And over time, we also, unfortunately, we did this because then COVID happened, but we had created an internal patient advocacy team. And that team is connected with referral partners all over the world. So it might be like a mom who started a small, like a support group or a Facebook group for, her child being, diagnosed with something that she didn't know anyone else around who was diagnosed with and wanted to create a community. It could be a more organized support group that, are focused around either a specific disease or in an area. Like it could be cancer or it could be pancreatic cancer. So those sorts of different types of organizations. So they have now, the patient advocacy team has a network of over 5,000 referral partners, which is extraordinary. And we've built up our patient and family caregiver community to over 150,000 patients and caregivers across 1,500 conditions. And that's everything from, very rare genetic conditions that affect, just a few people, to, even the most common conditions that we see, heart disease and asthma and things like that. Because what happened over time, as I said, we started with rare, but then patients you would come to us and say, "Oh, well, my mom wants to sign up too. She doesn't have a rare disease, but she has heart disease. Or I also have these three different things, asthma and acne and blah, blah, blah. Can I add those?" And we get clients who come to us for those, what we would call like chronic or non-rare conditions. So, we invite everybody to sign up. We expanded a few years ago beyond the US. So we've been in the US and Canada for many years, but then expanded to Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Australia, and New Zealand. And one day we may expand beyond that. We get a lot of requests for Asia and Africa, but one of the things that we're very cautious about is to make sure that we have the support for the patients. So if we're inviting them to a study, we want them to be able to go to a website and see something in their language. And then also, if we're inviting them and they have a question, we need to have project managers who speak those languages. So it's more than just saying, "Yeah, we're everywhere." We want to make sure we're doing the right thing. So that's us in a nutshell. I mean, it's, a large community. We started out doing the really connecting patients with market research, so focus groups, interviews, surveys. And then over time, we've also connected patients with clinical trials, because when they sign up with us, they want to be able to participate in research in general, and clinical trials is just one of those types of things.
Right. Great.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really good because I know that there's a lot of clinical trials out there, but many people have no idea how to even become part of that or access them or even find what's out there unless their physician that they're seeing kind of is in the know and points them in that direction as well.
Right.
can you explain the different ways that people can participate with Rare Patient Voice? You mentioned surveys and interviews, and what are the different ways that people can get connected?
So when they sign up with us, with a, a diagnosed medical condition, we, add them into our community. And then when we have a request for a particular study, we'll connect them. So the way that works is, if it's, for example, let's say it's a survey, our project managers would reach out to them via email. And if they're interested in that, in participating in that study, they can click a link, go through and answer the survey. And then at the end, we confirm with them their address and we pay them $120 an hour for participating. So generally we send them a check, but in once they've participated with us, they can also get it directly deposited into their bank account if they would rather that. But it's a pretty seamless process with the way that we work with things like focus groups and interviews. They would again get an invitation by email with all of the information, how long the study is, what the compensation would be, and the topic of interest. And then, they might, for example, we have some patients who really don't want to do an in-person interview. They don't want to travel to a site, which is completely understandable. And so they might just not click on that. But then they might get another invitation that's for an online interview and they're interested. So they would click on that and go through the screening. And then they would be scheduled for a time to do the interview. At the end of that, the moderator who conducts the interview would let us know. And then we would, again, pay them for their time.
Mhm.
So it's really those, I mean, the process works the same even for a clinical trial. No, they don't get paid for a clinical trial, but um, we would send them an invitation with the information. We want to give them like the choice to, if it's something they're interested in or not. So give them all the information for the trial. They would click on the link, move forward if it was something they were interested in. I know I've tried to participate in a trial before, and it was extraordinarily time consuming. So, it just wasn't something I could do at the time. And we want to make sure that, we're giving them all that information up front so that they understand, okay, it's a 6-month commitment or whatever it is, and then they can
Yeah.
move forward if they choose to.
Now, Rachel, I know that you had mentioned to me that you signed up through
Mhm.
them
A couple weeks
and
ago, I did. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
and you're getting some pretty consistent or
Emails. Yeah.
emails with it, so I'm curious, how are you finding as a new person that just signed up the process and the outcome so far?
Yeah. Yeah. So I signed up probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. Maybe it's been a month.
Mhm.
And I'm getting, probably because I have more than one diagnosis, but I'm getting multiple um, emails a week just about whether it's my diabetes or my asthma or my MS or
Mhm.
whatever it might be. And I've gone through some and haven't yet actually like chosen for that, but I wonder, and I don't know if you can answer this, but for somebody with multiple chronic illnesses,
Mhm.
is it harder to get matched knowing that if they're doing this study for asthma, but
Mhm.
they also have type 1 diabetes and they also have MS, is it more difficult to match when there's other issues going on that might muddy the water, so to speak?
Not particularly. So
No, good.
there are cases. So for example, specifically in a clinical trial,
Mm-hmm.
what they seem to want is like a patient who only has one thing, whatever that disease is they're looking at, which is really hard to find.
Yeah.
Most of us have multiple conditions, right? So,
Mhm.
but for most research, that's not the case. If you have MS, it's not it doesn't matter if you have also asthma and diabetes. There could be some particular study where it matters, or they're looking for whether you've taken a particular drug or not.
Yeah.
But having multiple conditions generally, especially in market research, is not usually a problem. Uh,
Good.
and quite honestly, it seems that you would get more opportunities to participate because there
Yeah.
are just these different things that people come to us for. It could be we had some fun, interesting studies. We've had this is one of my favorite ones, and I wish we had, hopefully we'll have more of them, but it was a usability study where we had a clothing manufacturer come to us. They wanted to create accessible clothing for people with mobility issues. And so
Wow.
they wanted a number of different people and all different sizes and different types of mobility challenges. And then they sent clothing to them and they tried it out for a week and then they did interviews with them and then, kind of figured out how to make those items that they were, that they tested out better for the patients or the people trying them out. And I thought that was super cool. But anyway, back to your question.
Yeah.
I don't think it is a challenge, again, only with clinical trials. It probably is harder to qualify.
Did you know Spoonful of Strength is not just a podcast? We have an Instagram page called Spoonful of Strength where you can see clips of our upcoming episodes, learn about different illnesses, and we share other people's stories. We also have an Etsy shop where you can shop for clothing such as t-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies. You can find candles and mugs and tumblers and blankets. You can find it all. We support all chronic illnesses, and the great thing is, if you find a t-shirt in our shop for multiple sclerosis, we can change that for lupus or Ehlers-Danlos or any other illness that you need. Everything is customizable in our shop. Use the code podcast for 20% off your entire order.
So you mentioned, we've talked about how those with chronic illness that may wish to participate in studies, how to sign up and the process of that. Do you have, for those that want to become involved with helping your mission, do you have volunteer opportunities with getting, spreading the word out there or, helping? It sounds like you don't do the events like, or at least as much as you did previously before COVID, but are there opportunities for people to help your mission in general?
Definitely. So we do, we actually, fortunately, more events are coming up, so if there are events in anyone's community that they're putting on, please reach out to us and let us know because we really like to meet the patients in person. It just is people have a lot of distrust with research. And so when, we can go and talk to people in person, explain what we do, make that connection, it just makes it a better process for everyone. So we really do like to go out to the events. So that's one thing. And so if anyone has any events that they are supporting and can share with us, we can't go to everything, of course, but we do try, if we have people in that area or we can send someone and it works out. We'd love to do that. The other thing we have is I had mentioned before our referral partner program. And what that is, it can be an individual. So an individual can get what we do is we provide them with a unique link and information. We can give you informational posts and things like that. But of course, you can do, your own. If you have a newsletter example, you might want to put something in your newsletter. Then you share that link out. And when people sign up through your link, we donate $10 back to you or your organization. So individuals as well as, as groups can participate in that program. And it's a nice kind of for smaller support and advocacy groups, it's a really nice passive fundraiser for them to be able to, you know, even we have an MS group that we work with, quite closely, and they've earned, some, I think, over $15,000 over time. They post on their Facebook page and people sign up, and it's just a good way for them to be able to support the activities they want to do for their membership.
That's wonderful. You mentioned previously that this isn't just for people with chronic illness, but caregivers as well. So what somebody who is a caregiver of somebody with a chronic illness, what types of opportunities, like how do they get involved?
So it's the same process. So what caregivers, what we're specifically meaning is family caregivers, not
Okay.
like a paid caregiver. And They often are, invited to do the same interviews and focus groups because depending on the particular condition, they may have more or different information or a different perspective than the patient has. So we'll often have clients who want a combination of talking to patients and talking to caregivers. And then, of course, if it's a condition, with for children, they'll want to talk to the parents, those caregivers to understand kind of the diagnostic journey or their treatment process, things like that. So caregivers are an important part of that process.
We didn't talk about specifically what the process is to sign up.
Mhm.
So can you go through that? If we're going to provide a link in the description of the podcast as well as on our Instagram page. What is the process to actually sign up and get involved with Rare Patient Voice?
Sure. So what they can do is we have a link on our website that they can go to and click, and they add in information, very pretty basic information, their address, name, birth date, the diagnoses they have and the dates of diagnosis, because sometimes that matters. We might have clients who are looking for a particular age group. So we need to know that, or that age group or time that they've been diagnosed with a particular condition. So sometimes that's important. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but we collect that information, um, basic demographic information, which isn't required, but you can add that in. And then it goes to our patient advocacy team to go through and review, because unfortunately, there are people who try to sign up and don't, they're not good actors. They want to just sign up to do research and say they have a particular condition so that they can get the money. So we have to also protect against fraud. So we go through and systematically look at the IP address and where the person actually is. So if they say they're in the US, but actually they're in Nigeria, we put them in quarantine because we don't want people in the community who are not legitimate. Then look at different, other things like their diseases and their medications and so on, and do things match? And are there any other, things that are wonky about that, what they've put in there? If we do have questions, we will try to call that person and clarify, because we have had times when, you know, people may have put the wrong information in, or put the wrong address. Or I had someone sign up, was with me at a conference. She lives in Maryland, but we happen to be in Texas. So she signed up when she was in Texas. And so it came up as a mismatch. And so then we clarified with her where, that, okay, this is where she was, but this is where she lives, and she was legitimate. So then, processed her and put her into the community. So it takes a little while. Sometimes it can be a couple of weeks before we can get everyone processed, because we do it all one by one. We're not using any, we're not just passing people through. We're going through and checking each profile to ensure that it's actually, a real person with, a real medical condition. Uh, who would even think that people would do that? But
Yeah.
they do. So
Yeah.
we have to be careful about that.
Yeah.
Right,
Then,
right.
then we'll begin to be invited to studies as you have been, and that's that.
Yeah.
Once they're signed up,
Mhm.
and I know you said it could take a couple weeks before they get confirmed. After that, what should they expect after they're in the queue, so to speak?
So then they will get invitations to different studies based on what they've signed up with. The one caveat I will say is there are some conditions that just don't maybe right away have research going on. You know, we have one good example is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that there's just not a lot of research in that area. So those people may not get invited to studies right away. Whereas if you have an area that's being researched quite a lot, then, or there are new products coming to market, that's when we get to see a lot of interest and a lot of, people wanting to communicate with patients. Um, so, they would get invitations to different studies. The one thing, going back to the Ehlers-Danlos and the people who might not have as many opportunities, what we do try to do is provide people with an opportunity to participate in studies a couple times. We do a couple internal studies throughout the year just to keep people engaged because they signed up because they want to share their voice. We want to give them an opportunity. So we've done a couple, one on patient advocacy and one on neurodiversity in the workplace, one on how patients feel about participating in research. And then we share that information back with the patients so that they actually have an opportunity to be involved because we want to try to, make those connections. And part of what I do is search for clients, in a variety of areas to try to find opportunities for those patients. But sometimes there just isn't anything going on. And so we're trying to do that internally to help them, to feel like they're being able to contribute to something and then also get the results back.
Now, you mentioned you have gotten surveys. So do you have a connection to chronic illness or caregiving?
Yes. Two different things. So my son has hearing loss and also learning disabilities. We don't get a lot of requests for learning disabilities, but we do get a lot of hearing loss requests. So that's one area that I'm signed up with. So it's interesting. I don't participate in the studies because I guess I could, but it is, I get to see the invitations and how they come through and how often they come through and so on. So it's good kind of just as a like checks and balances to sort of see how that process works from, the caregiver side.
I had mentioned to Tina before we brought you in that, I was just scrolling Facebook and I saw this rare patient voice and just stuck out to me. And I did a lot of looking at Instagram page and at different things. And it was very interesting because, we spoke about how when you have a chronic illness, sometimes you feel very lonely as far as feeling like you're making a difference or you're contributing. And I think with what Rare Patient Voice is doing is allowing people with chronic illness to feel like they're in that hand of helping to either learn about their disease or providing information, and just feeling like there's a purpose of what you're going through to be able to feel like you're helping, and I think that's really important. And so, yeah, I am signed up and I'm getting the emails coming through and I'm really excited to be able to share this with our listeners because I feel like we do a lot of interviews on our podcast with people with chronic illness. Once a week we bring in somebody with chronic illness and they have a chance to talk about their life and what illness they have and spread awareness and all of that. And Tina, I think you would agree with me that the one common thread through everybody we've talked to who have all different illnesses, and we've talked to people from Australia and Ireland and Spain, and is that they want to raise awareness, but they also want to figure out how they can make a difference. And so I think this is a way for people to feel like they're making a difference. Would you agree with that, Tina, that, everybody we've talked to, they just want to put it out there and
they want to figure out the purpose of what they're going through and being able to take part of studies and research and raising awareness. That's a big part of finding that purpose. I mean, I remember when I first, we were still shell shocked with my cancer diagnosis, but I remember both of us sitting there going, okay, I don't understand why this is happening, but there's a bigger reason behind it that that's supposed to come out of it. 6 years later, I'm still not quite sure. Just out there, raising awareness and being, and helping other people feel supported and becoming part of Rare Patient Voice, I can definitely see where that can also help with feeling a little more fulfilled and realizing the importance of being proactive, not just proactive, but
Mhm.
sharing your journey to help other people.
Yeah, we do hear that a lot from, because we are, even though we're paying patients, for their time, a lot of them will come back and say, I'm not doing it for the money.
Mhm.
I'm doing it because I want to help people who are coming after me. Maybe, something in my experience could shorten their journey or could make their treatment experience better or, could change a device or something to make it more usable for someone else. Like there's so many different aspects that, that patients and caregivers can contribute to making things better. And sometimes it's making it better. It might make it better for you, but it might make it better for other people, kind of that waves of, kind of paying it forward. And that's a nice way to, this is a nice way to do that.
Mhm.
We actually have one of our colleagues who he also has MS, and he is 100% sure that his input in research that he did impacted the I think it's a hurricane, one of the canes that they changed the configuration of the feet because of his input. He's
Oh,
100%
wow.
sure of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so that's, it makes you feel good and that you're doing something to help other people. And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. A couple years ago, my husband wanted to give me an MS t shirt for my birthday. All he could find, though, were brightly colored t shirts with big graphics, like a smiley face giving two middle fingers, and words like FUMS. Isn't there an option for a simple, stylish t shirt that spreads awareness with kindness? That's when I created Spoonful of Strength, shirts that are inspirational, motivational, and stylish. You can find us on Etsy, Instagram, and Facebook at Spoonful of Strength. That's Spoonful with 2 L's. Enter code podcast for 20% off anything in the shop. I just recently, I mean, I created Spoonful of Strength like in March. And so prior to that, I've gone years and years and years of just not reaching out to groups or anything like that. And it is very isolating. And so I love the fact that I see so many people with groups, whether it be just their disease or chronic illness, in general. And it is a real support group. And I can see how much it's benefited me just having other people that are going through the same thing. So it's just been wonderful.
We have a fantastic social media team and they've got a lot of followers, but they post a lot of really great stuff. If you're on Facebook at all, I post a lot of really great stuff on Facebook. They have, they'll do a weekly warrior where they interview a person and kind of share their story. I don't know if you're interested in doing that, but it's a great kind of community. It's not necessarily, where people are talking back and forth, but kind of looking at different, opportunities to participate or support information. And it's a nice, I think it's a nice Facebook page that they've put together.
We have a Spoonful friend that came onto our podcast, and he is organizing a walk for Chiari. So if somebody is creating a walk or an event, how do they get Rare Patient Voice to come to that event? Is there something on the website that they can click on?
Website, we have a tab. It says for patients and
Okay. Yeah, let me
yeah,
look
and
here.
then it says find us in the community. On that same page that I mentioned, it says, would you like us to come to your event? Please contact us at contactus@rarepatientvoice.com.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
again, we don't go to all events just because we're still a small team, but we try. And,
Yeah.
even if we can't do it, that person could be set up as a referral partner and then, still be able to get that kind of support. And we can post it on our social media. There are different things that we can do, whether we're at the event or not, that can
Yeah.
help raise awareness. So.
Absolutely wonderful. We can't thank you enough, Pam, for coming on and sharing this. And we're definitely going to share the link so that people can easily just click the link and sign up. We want to try and get as many people as possible to be able to experience that and have that feeling of being involved. And so we're just so glad that you took time out of your busy day. I know that being a senior vice president, I'm sure you're very, very busy. So we really appreciate you taking time out.
I'm always happy to share and let more people know. Great.
Well,
Well, thank you very
you,
much. I appreciate being invited. And if there's anything else I can do, let me know.
that was fun.
Yeah, I like her. I didn't realize they were based out here in Maryland.
Yeah, yeah. For any of our listeners who haven't seen, go to our Instagram page. And Rare Patient Voice reached out to me a couple weeks ago just to talk about the Spoonful of Strength community. And so we've got a fun little video on there about how Spoonful of Strength came about. And they shared that with their audience, and it was really fun to do. And me going through the experience, it is really easy, depending on how many illnesses you have. Obviously, the more illnesses you have, the more time it takes. But I think I signed up within 10 minutes. It was really easy, and the opportunities are coming in. And so it's just a great way to share your knowledge and your experience with your chronic illness to try and make a difference.
Yeah, yeah. This is just the more I'm digging into their site, it's just an amazing organization that gives, like I said, earlier, resources that a lot of people probably aren't even aware are out there. The ability to take part in these research studies to help others and yourself.
What are other ways that people can share their experience and their knowledge and all of that with the community? I know Stephen is doing a Chiari walk. Stephen Lopez was on our podcast a few weeks back, and he's out of Tampa, Florida, and he's doing a walk for Chiari. I've done 6 walks with MS through Indianapolis. Have you ever done a walk?
I have not, and it's interesting because I was just sitting here thinking about that. My particular cancer it's just such a rare one out there that, I mean, I don't like, I kind of adopted the orange ribbon for kidney cancer, even though, because I lost the kidney and it was up in my kidney, but it wasn't your typical renal cell carcinoma. It was the transitional cell, so it doesn't even have its own color. It's supposed to have the generic, in general, the generic color. Haven't really seen opportunities for that, but
I bet you would create a walk and you'd get there and you'd be the only one there.
they'll be like, "Hey, thanks." Me and all my friends that are, I know will always show up to support me, and I'll be like, "Okay, guys, we're just going to go for a hike right now." So.
Yeah, but that brings up a good point. Like with something that is rare, she said they had over 1,500 conditions. So if you have something that is rare, you'd probably be surprised to see some opportunities come through, through Rare Patient Voice.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely be signing up for through them to see what kind of opportunities are out there for me. I try to be active on there's a Facebook group, for upper tract urothelial cancer. And I'm, it's not super active, but I do try to definitely interact as much with that, because a lot of times it's, the new people that the newly diagnosed that find that page or that Facebook group, they just come in terrified because that cancer does not have a great survival rate. And so as soon as they go in and start looking at that, or they talk to their doctors, they're already kind of, a lot of them are already coming in dejected and decided that, I don't know, that they're not going to make it out, so to speak. And so I try very hard to share my story with that and say, don't, that you can prove them wrong, because I
Yeah.
did. It was 2018 and they said, at stage 4, and they said 14% of chance of a 2-year survival. And, so now I'm kind of there, every time I see my urologist, he just, shakes his head at me and tells me I'm this miracle patient. But, um, and that's why it's so important for me to be vocal about my journey, is because I know I'm encouraging other people where, I remember that first initial time of walking out going, hearing those numbers and just going, and being shell shocked
Mhm.
and then I just shook it off and was like, well, no, I don't, I'm not accepting that. But it's not everybody has that ability to do that. It's also easy, very, very easy when you're overwhelmed to let
Yeah.
those thoughts, take up residence of, focusing on the numbers that are given versus the, knowing what you have the ability to do.
Yeah. And how wonderful is it for somebody who's terrified to get on that page and see someone like you that has come so far. And because I imagine, you took the news from the doctor and said, well, I'm going to prove them wrong. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that would leave that doctor's office just with,
When the mindset that they've got 2 years and,
yeah, yeah. And I know mindset is really important when you're going through an illness. I believe mental health does affect, our how we feel and our illness. And so for somebody to walk out terrified and come across, the group and find somebody who is doing so well gives them a little bit of hope that they could be on that path as well.
Yeah, and I know it's coming up. I'm seeing my Facebook memories now of this time last year as when we were over in Japan. So I know probably later this week I'll be seeing the memories of me climbing Mount Fuji last
Mm-hmm.
year.
Yeah.
And the day after, when we came down and I got back to the hotel, I remember going into that group and posting a picture of me at the summit. And I said, from stage 4 in 2018 to the summit of Mount Fuji in 2023, I was like, so, never doubt what you have the ability to do.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. To kind of wrap things up here, the more you get involved with Facebook or Instagram groups or Rare Patient Voice, as we've talked with today, or studies through your doctor, I think it does good for your mental health just to feel like you're contributing and that you are providing your experience to hopefully create a difference within your chronic illness community. Right. So it's really important. So that wraps up another episode. We only have 3 episodes left. I can't believe it. We are looking forward to wrapping up this season so that we can work hard to bring season 2 together. I do want to mention that we have a giveaway going on to celebrate our finale. Our finale episode will be airing on August 29th, which is my birthday, by the way. We did not plan that.
That's
yeah.
right.
So our finale will be airing August 29th. If you go to our Instagram page at Spoonful of Strength, I have a post about the giveaway that explains everything. But we are giving away a custom hoodie. And what that means is you pick the color. If you see something in our shop that you like, we can do that. Or you can say, listen, I have fibromyalgia. I want a purple sweatshirt and I want it to be inspirational. Then we will create a design just for you. That's all included with the giveaway. All you have to do to enter is go to that post. You want to like and share that post. And then all you have to do is comment hoodie, HOODIE. And that gets you an entry into the giveaway. If you tag friends, you get an extra entry for every friend that you tag. And you can enter every day through August 22nd. So only have a few days left to enter, but you have enough time to be able to enter a couple times. We will announce the winner on our finale, as well as Instagram on August 29th. Check that out. And this Thursday, we have another Spoonie interview, and we'll be talking with Kim. She's going to talk about her illness, which is lupus. It's actually discoid lupus. So that's going to be on Thursday. So we hope that you have a great week coming up, and we will talk to you on Thursday. Take care.